On behalf of the President of Nigerian Institution of Surveyors, our own surveyors, our city Charles, FNIS, FNNGS, NMAPEL, and AK, the President of Nigerian Institution of Surveyors. I welcome you all to the 38th Annual Olumide Memorial Lecture. Topic is promoting the culture of peace and tolerance in Nigeria. Here at an African Center, Switzerland Estate, Abuja. And our guest speaker for today is Ajia Maya Milena, the Head of Resources Management and Administration at the Rising College. I welcome you to this great session this morning. The history is recording itself today because we started Olumide Memorial Lecture many years back, and I want to use this opportunity to call on the country's secretary to rise as we take the national anthem for the release of the program for the release of peace. Yes, sir. Please, I'd like you to rise as we recognize you on today's occasion. Chairman, you are welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome. Also, the council representatives we have I'd like you to stand. Sorry for the breaking transmission, so to say. Please allow us to stand as we welcome our president. As president, you are welcome, sir.
Chairman of this occasion, Honorable Senator Kagoro is not here with us yet, but we will start the program and we hope that he joins us as we go along. COVID-19 has made it difficult for us to plan our lives. Everything we do is called the new normal. Let me also recognize the chairman of board of fellows and all our past presidents that are here, the Surveyor General, the Olumide family, the registrar, this year's Olumide Memorial lecture. As ordinarily, the administration ought to have expired on the 22nd of June 2020. We therefore had no plan to do this kind of organizing one. But when the Council of the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors thought in its wisdom at the August 27, 2020 Council meeting held at the very good hotel, Public Service Institute of Nigeria, Wari, Abuja, agreed to extend the tenure of this administration. We suddenly realized the implication of not holding one in our extended period. Because for Olumide, we saw importance in the surveillance of this country that not holding an in this country, and more especially to those of us who have studied his works in other human endeavors outside the professions of engineering and surveying. He is a shining light to humanity, and shall ever remain so unto all eternity. The organization for the lecture for this year is slightly different, significantly different from previous years. We are holding both physical and virtual meetings in tandem with the new normal world of COVID-19. I believe this evening gives more room for diverse audiences to join in our deliberations. The lecture for this year is most appropriate for us and our country. For as a country, we have never been so challenged with so much violence in every sphere of our existence. And I do ask the question, where are us? It is my belief that our guest speaker, lecturer, Ajay Mariam Levy, who needs no introduction. As an erudite scholar and motivational speaker, shall be taking us across the frontiers of this discourse. I cannot conclude this speech without mentioning the mantra of this administration has come to identify this. The need for a cordial and a peaceful interrelationship across the spectrum of the surveying family. We can only contribute to a peaceful existence when we all understand that equity, justice, and fairness are the hallmarks that accelerate peace. Above all, the rule of law is paramount. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please relax as we await the guest speaker to work an appetite for which we have been very undergrads.
Thank you, our president. Please, once again, let's give our president a round of applause, please. I quickly want to recognize and give honor to our
even imagine the possibility of being kidnapped or even slaughtered on the road. Now, I can share many more fond memories of the good old days, and I'm sure so can each and every person in this hall. But that is not really what brought me here today. My purpose is to highlight and understand some of our challenges and hopefully find ways of contributing to reducing them. I shall be sharing 3 suggestions with you. We are bridge burning instead of bridge building. However, dare I ask us to approach it as you would your profession quantity surveying. Approach it scientifically. Approach it mathematically. If you want to know who the criminals are in my village Lemu or in the city I live in Minna, who the thieves are, guess what you will find? My own people. If we can be scientific in our approach, then we should check our prisons and see who the majority are. The biggest problem in Nupe majority areas are Nupes themselves. The same applies to each and every one of us in this room. We are actually our biggest problem. Who are those looting the funds in our state? Nobody more than our own political leaders, folks who we appointed, we elected, of our own ethnicity and our own religious affiliation. It is said that everybody moves around with an imaginary window and an imaginary mirror. If you look out of the window, you will see others. And if you look into the mirror, you will see yourself. Now, a bad leader is one who looks out of the window when things go wrong to apportion blame. And a good leader is one who looks in the mirror when things go wrong and takes responsibility. We need to start looking in the mirror as a people and take responsibility for our own contribution to our progress or our downfall. It reminds me of a statement in the Bible attributed to Jesus where he said to the men who accused the woman of adultery, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." And the question there is, where do we get the audacity to blame or accuse people of another region, other ethnicities, of another faith, and settlers for being the main cause of our woes, when according to our police, our judges, our lawyers, our own prison and correctional service staff, the greatest proportion of criminals, those looting the millions and billions in our own state, are our own people. The greatest number of robbers are our own people. Rapists, bigots in our own state are our own people. our own people. Yes, our own people. Is it not hypocritical that we see the speck in other people's eyes, but we don't see the log in our own? We as educated professionals should be the last to join the bandwagon of those who believe the major problem is somebody else. Let me tell you of a ship that was sailing out at sea. And this ship was huge and it had an upper and a lower deck. And the people in the upper deck, when they needed water, they just threw a bucket overboard and fetched water without any problem. However, those in the lower deck had to climb up the ladder with their bucket and go and fetch the water, then climb down, spilling most of it before they get to the bottom. And this continued for long, and they started to get tired. They started to get frustrated. So one day they came together and they asked those in the upper deck, "We need your assistance. Could you please just fetch the water and pass it to us, and we will bring it down?" And those in the upper deck said, "Sorry, we have no problem getting water. That's your problem, so you solve your problem." And so the people in the lower deck over time got exhausted, got frustrated, became resentful. And one day a charismatic leader in their midst came up with a brilliant suggestion. He said, "Why are we stressing ourselves? Why do we need them to help us when they don't care? We are actually closer to the water than they are. All we need to do is just drill a hole and we have all the water we need." And so the genius suggested they drill a hole. And what once upon a time wasn't their problem became everybody's problem when that ship sank. It reminds me of a metaphor from our own religious teaching, where Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, said that society is like a big ship. solving the problems first, in solving the problems faced by those in both the upper and the lower deck, it is important to ensure that our individual and collective selfishness and prejudice does not undermine the diagnosis of the root cause of the problem. So we do not end up prescribing wrongly. There is a famous Islamic scholar called Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayah who said, in our approaches to removing injustices, we should not cause further injustices. So to summarize this point, my first point, permit me to use a metaphor I'm very sure many of us have conversations with, potholes on our roads. Now they look the same everywhere around the world. They seem very simple and clear from a distance. But as we get closer, they start to get complicated. So it's easy to conclude that potholes are the same and have the same causes and the same solutions, but not true. Potholes do simply yes. And yes, if you leave them, they continue to expand and multiply. But you do not conclude that because yours is similar to mine, that the causes are the same and the solutions are the same. The truth of the matter is, every surveyor, every engineer knows that the things that cause the potholes there are quite different than those that cause the potholes in my area. Yours may have been caused by heavy excessive weighted vehicles, poor quality underlying soil, excessive heat, and in some countries, excessive cold. Whereas mine may have been caused by poor quality asphalt, poor workmanship, corruption-related issues, or dare I say, a corrupt quantity surveyor, unless we believe we don't have corrupt quantity surveyors, and it's always the fault of the civil engineers. But one thing we do know for sure is we cannot afford to say we will do nothing about it. Otherwise, our roads will become deadly and impassable. So even though we all have potholes, such as bigotry, ethnic tension, gender inequality, a poor education system, sporadic power supply, a pathetic healthcare system, insecurity, kidnappings, corruption, conflict between herdsmen and arable farmers, Boko Haram, the list is endless. And we all know that, like potholes, if we ignore those problems, they will engulf our society. But we cannot conclude that the causes are the same, and so the solutions would be the same. And due to the complexity of the problem, what we find is some of us have developed a mentality and a mindset and paradigm that every old and new pothole, every problem in Nigeria is caused by the same group, of the same religion, of the same ethnicity or region. And if we can only clip the wings of that other group, the ones we believe are the cause of our problems, we will have a better, more peaceful Nigeria, and we will be the messiahs that save this great country. Let us remember that our biggest problem can be seen when we look in the mirror. Once again, like potholes, we cannot conclude that what is causing their problems is the same as what is causing ours, simply because they look the same from a distance. We have to remember that wrong diagnosis will lead to wrong prescriptions, which creates opportunities for opportunists to come in and divide us even further, which in turn I am a proud Nupe, and I also happen to be a woman. I also happen to be a Muslim. I also happen to be a Northerner, and I also happen to be a Nigerian. Each of these identities is what God has chosen for me, and I am grateful to Him. But I also recognize that each and every other multiple, colorful identity in this hall, in this great nation, on this planet, it's God's choice for others. And they should be proud of their own, and I should respect that. And this brings me to my second point. The truth of the matter is, many who really care don't seem united with those on the other side who also really care. Muslims have their good, their bad, and their ugly. Christians have their good, their bad, and their ugly. Looking at our reality and how few across the various divides seem to really care, it is of the utmost importance that we bridge build, we network, and we synergize at every given opportunity. So my second point is there is a strong need for bridge building and peace education, especially for our younger ones, going all the way to the grassroots. We need to start preaching peaceful coexistence at a curriculum level in our education system. Why? Because we realize when you look at other nations that are more economically stable than we are, more politically stable, have a higher standard of education, that these factors alone could not protect communities from prejudice or violence. It is not true that the elite and the educated are the most objective. We have seen the well-to-do, the highly educated, who are as bigoted as bigotry comes. And we have to ask, what went wrong with their education system that it did not immunize them against such sentiments? So we need to ensure that peace building, bridge building, and the pursuit of social justice is incorporated into the fabric of our growth and identity as Nigerians. This is the responsibility of our education system, of our professional guilds, of the media, of our traditional rulers, our religious organizations, and our own families. So my second point, we need deliberate and conscious bridge building and peace education. Now finally, to my third and last point. If every Christian would be more like Jesus, may Allah be pleased with him, we would not be having these problems. If every Muslim would be more like Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him, we would not be having these problems. And so the need to look at our religious institutions. We have scriptures on the tips of our tongues. We carry our religion like a look, like a uniform you can take off when it's not convenient. Sadly, many don't translate the message and teachings of the books and scriptures into actions. They are just words that sound so beautiful to say. The input does not produce the right output. How much peace from a religious perspective are we teaching our younger ones? From home, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our schools. As a mother and a wife in Africa, permit me to use a metaphor of cooking. If from a very young age I teach my son the art of cooking, and I teach him how to put the right ingredients and how to create balance in dishes, years later, when I want to teach him how to make a new form of jollof rice, and I say, son, keep the oil. He says, yes, mama. Fry the onions. Add the peppers, no problem. Add ice cream. He said, hey, mama, ice cream in jollof? And I say, no, never mind, my mistake, leave that. Then I say, add the curry. He does. Oh yeah, add coffee. At this point, he'll probably go report me to him, Papa, say, Mama, something is very wrong with her. And even though I taught him the art of cooking, he knows enough to question whenever I tell him to add ice cream and coffee to jollof. However, if from a young age, I teach him how to cook, and while teaching him the art of cooking, and I say, add the onions, add the tomatoes, add coffee, and he say, hey, coffee, Mama. I say, what you do? See this kid, stupid boy. If I would you one slap, your father will not recognize you. So, he adds the coffee. Then I say, add the Fanta, and he gives me a look, and everybody here knows the look when Mama looks at you. You will arrange yourself. The moment my son starts to accept things in an unquestioning way, Later, when I tell him, add sand to that dish, add stones, he will not question me. Why? Because he's become a blind follower. If we teach our youth the fundamentals of peace from our own history and the messages of peace from our faith, and not confuse them with messages of violence, battles, vengeance, and messages of war. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying take these out of the pages of history, but keep them in context. It is when they have been immunized with values and principles of peaceful coexistence and justice that when a half-baked scholar, preacher, teacher, leader, politician, or group with extremist ideologies start to preach hate and vengeance, that they are able to detect that this is not my religion, however, neither is it theirs. And they will have the courage enough to question them and challenge them for sharing views that do not go in line with how they were raised, and most likely will not fall prey. If you do not know what a real Naira bill looks like, you will not be able to detect the counterfeit. If you do not know what true religious teachings look like, you will not know the false ones. If you do not know what godliness means, you will not be able to detect the wolf in sheep's clothing. We all need to have a minimum level of values-oriented religious literacy that allows us to see the wolves in sheep's clothing, both in our communities and in others. Every Muslim knows that we have quack, charlatan malams and imams, and every Christian knows that we have fake prophets and predators. That hate speech from a pastor does not represent Christians or Christianity, or for some Christians to accept that a suicide bomber in a marketplace, Boko Haram and ISIL, do not represent Islam or Muslims. Again, it is easier to point at the specks in someone else's eyes than to remove the logs in ours. But let us recognize that we all have a role to play in countering our own heretics and bigots and extremists and the ideologies behind their beliefs, so that the innocent can differentiate between humane and destructive forms and interpretations of our religions. It is in good, caring Christians and good, caring Muslims that we can see the scales tipping in a different direction from where it is headed today. We cannot continue to allow our pastors and imams, our community leaders, and even some of our loved ones to keep ranting of hate speech and toxic speech and do nothing about it. There's a beautiful quote from Edmund Burke where he said, "All that is required for the triumph of evil is for good men to remain silent." Our I don't care attitude, our sit don't look approach, our be patient, Uri mentality to the misdeeds, the corruption and atrocities from both the upper and the lower deck that is killing Nigeria. Our apathy is our deadliest weapon of mass destruction. It is un-Christian-like and it is un-Muslim-like. There is a strong need for us to use religion as a force to promote peace, love, and tolerance, where we highlight examples from our faith and messages of peace, coexistence, equity, justice, love, and tolerance. In the Quran, Allah says, "We have created you male and female, and we have made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another, not so that you may kill one another, or hurt one another, or destroy one another." It is from the ingredients put in my education and the teachings from my parents that I grew up knowing that hate speech and violence does not go with my religion, but neither is it Christian. We have many stories in Islamic heritage, just as we have in Christian heritage, legacies of peace building. Some shared by my parents from a very young age, were when the Prophet trusted Muslim refugees of persecution into the hands of an Abyssinian king in modern-day Ethiopia. Now, I'm not a scholar of Christianity, but from the little I was taught, there are many stories of peace, and Christians refer to Jesus as the Prince of Peace. We have common statements in both the Quran and in the Bible than what many would want us to believe. One my father said to us throughout our childhood, until his old age, is one from a surah in the Quran, Surah Al-Fusilat, chapter 41, verse 34. He said, where God said, return evil with that which is good. Then verily, he between you and whom there was animosity will become as good friends. And in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27, it says, in your anger do not sin, and do not allow the sun to go down while you are still angry. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 and 22, Peter came to Jesus, may peace be on him, and asked, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Is it up to 7 times? And Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. The prophet, may peace be upon him, taught us that God shows mercy to those who show mercy to others, and God forgives those who forgive others. It is similar to what the Christians say in the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who trespass against us. If I may point out, nowhere in either scripture did it say, except if it is a Christian or a Muslim. The prophet said, may peace be upon him, I swear he is not a believer. I swear he is not a believer. I swear he is not a believer. And he was asked, O Messenger of Allah, who is not a believer? He said, one whose neighbor does not feel safe from his evil. When the disciples were asking Jesus, may God be pleased with him, what is the greatest commandment? He said, love your Lord with all your might, with all your strength and all your heart. Then love thy neighbor as thyself. In both cases, we never saw a clause where it said, except if it happens to be a Muslim or a Christian neighbor. We have more areas in common than what many would want us to think. My parents raised us preaching peaceful coexistence. They raised us to stand up for justice, even if it is against ourselves or our loved ones. I would never stand with a religion that condones oppression, kidnapping, rape, killing of innocent, hatred, bigotry, or divisiveness. And I swear in Allah's name that anyone who is doing so in the name of Islam is a completely misguided individual. We live in a society where we need people to develop an atmosphere conducive for peace building and peaceful coexistence. So to summarize, in my humble opinion, what may be a way forward for us as citizens of this great nation, my first point is the metaphor of the ship. If we do not deal with social and structural injustices, the less privileged will continue to make holes in this ship. If the corruption on the upper deck is not squarely addressed, those in the upper deck will never ever find peace. Then please remember the metaphor of potholes, that there are different problems and different solutions, and don't misdiagnose. We should never underestimate our own stereotypes, our broad generalizations, and how they can magnify the problem, and recognize the fact that our education system and our social status does not immunize us against prejudice. My second point, we need deliberate and conscious bridge building and peace education, and we all need hands on deck to be able to achieve this. And my third point is the metaphor of cooking. We need intellectual vaccination and spiritual immunization, starting from our homes, in our places of worship, and in our schools. And we need to speak up and tone down the voices of those preaching hate and bigotry. The litmus test of true religiosity is compassion. And compassion needs courage. It needs strength. It needs faith and trust in God. Like my Baba said earlier, justice is critical for long-term peace. The rule of law is critical for long-term peace. If you don't care about justice, then your cry out for peace is fake. While patience and forgiveness and tolerance are key ingredients for peace building, justice is a prerequisite for long-term peace. We need to stop pointing fingers. We need to recognize that we are all victims. We need to recognize our common enemy and our common destiny. There is no other Nigeria for us to go to. This is our home. We live here, we die here. Nobody actually wants us. Go to any airport and see who welcomes you. We have to settle our own internal differences. There are so many angles to fixing the problems we have in this country. This is just my humble submission. And with all the problems we have, everybody has a role to play. Because if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you are a problem yourself. While not everybody is guilty for the negative climate change, everybody has a responsibility. We cannot afford to keep saying, that's not our problem, that's their problem. I pray that with love and strength and faith, as it says in our national anthem, that Nigerians will stay together, faiths will get together, and the forces of good will triumph. And each of us, God willing, will die knowing that we contributed with all our might to a better Nigeria, that the labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain. And I also pray that we develop the courage to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help us, God. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. I don't know where to start. And please let's have our say. We have in the House the Justice of Peace, who we had value towards our guest, the Speaker of just said on for us. Please permit me to bring to the seat in front our President to coordinate the questions, commentaries from the dignitaries seated here. Our President, sir, you're welcome.
Distinguished audience, that comprises our past presidents, our incoming presidents. We have not greeted him today. I thought you would come and greet me, at least when you passed. Our colleagues, you see, when this institution came on board, we started peace, day one, peace, day two. And I'm now therefore not surprised that at the exit, we are still preaching peace. It's been a very wonderful lecture, but I believe we may have one or two questions, or one or two speeches to make. Let's make it very short time in getting these details so that we can bring this ceremony to a close. You know we have COVID-19. Sometimes we begin to wonder whether this COVID has some spiritual connotation. I don't know. Because with the way I see our people go about, not wearing face masks, and we're not dropping dead on the streets. Yet the white man who is doing all this are dying. Anyway, that's the story for another day. So let's have the opinion of Christians if you have any place. Yes. The Surveyor General of the Federation, in my usual manner, I like to give numbers so that somebody speaks. That's when you want to talk yourself. So let us make up our mind. That's comments.
I want to start by thanking the guest lecturer for that very interesting and well-packaged lecture. Actually, I actually look at it as a sermon. While she was delivering the lecture, something was running in my mind. there's this saying that if you want peace, you prepare for war. I want to hear your response to that. Of course, I also know that it is only in an environment of peace that we make progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. As a marriage counselor, I advise couples who have been fighting a lot, and what I say to them, if you're going to fight, fight to make it work. So yes, we need to go to war to make things work in this country. If you ask me to prepare for peace, to go to war, we go to war to battle the corruption. We go to war to battle the bigotry on all the divides, in every culture, in every faith. And that's when I believe we can take up arms to fight for justice, peace, law and order, and the rule of law. Thank you, sir.
That is invariably also an advice to me, so I will change my strategy. Let's hear our other professor.
Thank you very much, President and the House. I want to thank the lecturer. This is November of this year, and I think this is the most beautiful and most thought-provoking and how do I put it again? Something that actually adds value lecture that I've had this year. I want to say that I'm very, very much impressed. Maybe because you saw the list of lecturers and they intimidated you. That is why you brought out your best. I want to assure you that your best is indeed extremely good. Excellent. When you started, I had a fear because of the way the lecture went in the very first few minutes. And my fear was that something was going to be neglected. The attributes or those things, those factors that bring lack of peace. But you did justice again, because right at the middle, you introduced those things, those elements that we have to watch out for, which, when introduced, are the things that cause peace. And I want to mention them to be injustice, lawlessness, that is, lack of the rule of law, lack of respect, mistrust, and more importantly, lack of truth, when we are unable to be truthful to one another. Peace suffers. I agree that what Nigeria needs most, and indeed the world, because Nigeria is just a microorganism of what is going on in other parts of the world. What we need most in this world and in Nigeria of today is bridge building. We must reach across the aisle, to let people know that they are wanted, they are loved, and that we are all human beings, and really the fault cannot be on one side alone. So I thank you again, and I just needed to end by saying that Nigerians must watch out. When we preach peace, we must know that peace without justice, peace without righteousness, Peace without those elements of things that go along with peace, without them, if you seek them, maybe just peace on a time bomb, willing to explode any moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for that contribution. We go to the next row.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam. My name is Furega Kene. To start with, actually I wanted to ask in line with what our Surveyor General asked, so I will drop that one. On the other side, no questions to ask. What our father said, I think is the best lecture I've ever come across for this 2020. But the area I want us to dwell on more seriously is what I described based on the lecture as the blind followers concept. And that is the major problem we have in this country. Now, we'll look deeper to see how we're going to stop these blind followers concepts. Because the blind followers were made possible by the people in the upper deck. And in the upper deck too, we have different categories in the upper deck. Just like you described us as elites and people in the upper deck. But there are people in the upper deck, not by dint of hard work, but by societal provisions. On that note, I've actually followed up on that in different fora. Like, you mentioned something that I always use as my closing remark on anything I write. That is the quotation from Edmund Burke, and it's very important. So what I want you to highlight to us briefly is how we can overcome the issue of the blind followers and to equally correlate with your cooking formula. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry? The tomato example. Jollof with Fanta and stones, yeah. Thank you for your question. I think, like I said, this issue to do with personal accountability, the ability to look in the mirror and see the hypocrisy in ourselves. What are we seeing at home? Sometimes sentiments start from the home. And I think that is really the foundation for any society. I think of the upbringing I had, and throughout my life, I always saw my parents as bridge builders. Where we live in Niger State, it has been a very peaceful state. I've been privileged enough to grow up in an organization that has partnered with the Christian groups, the Catholic Archdiocese, with organized interfaith dialogue. So growing up, having seen it modeled by my parents, it was almost impossible for me to have any biases, any bigotry. Why? Because I knew what Christianity looked like, and I knew what real Christianity looked like, but I also know what fake Islam looks like. So the ability to be truthful, honest, and say, even in my faith, we do have charlatans, we have fake imams. We have to be very truthful. That's why I said, let's start by looking in the mirror. When you see societies that are working, that are thriving, there's a lot of accountability. You hold people in office accountable. You do not place them in positions and allow them to do as they please. You have to call them to order. Unfortunately, that our sit-down look approach is what causes bigger problems, because they feel they can do as they please and get away with it. Even if you call the departments that are in charge of investigating and prosecuting, you find there's an easy way out, unlike those who maybe commit even petty theft in a shop. They may spend more time in jail than those who are looting the millions and billions, again, due to the powers we hold and the fact that we are in the upper deck. So I would say the first is personal accountability. If we fix ourselves, if everybody in this room arranges themselves and makes sure they are not part of the problem, I believe that's the first step. There is a huge problem, but there's a quick story I will tell you of the story of the starfish. And this man was walking on the beach early one morning. Then he saw another man in the near distance that kept bending up, standing down, standing up, bending up, standing down. And then he got closer, and the sun was rising. He realized he had to be careful with where he was treading, because there were thousands of starfish that had been washed ashore the night before. So as he got closer to see what this man was doing, the man was picking up starfish and throwing it back in the ocean. And he looked at the thousands of starfish and he said, "Sir, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm saving starfish." He said, "But there are thousands of them. You can't possibly make a difference." And he bent down, picked up a starfish, threw it in the ocean, and he said, "But I made a difference to that one." So our problem is massive. And which angle will you come from? But everybody has a circle of influence. There is something as an individual, we can start with ourselves and our immediate environment. Everybody is in office. Most people in this room belong to a profession. And so if you start tackling it from just there, it will have a domino effect. Because at least there are institutions that the moment you mention the name, something comes to mind. If you say the Nigerian army of our faith, of our religions, of our culture, our tribe, our gender, and we hold ourselves accountable and make sure everybody around us is held accountable. Because one thing I always say, it's not good enough to be good alone. If people around you are doing something wrong and you allow and you ignore, then you also are wrong. So that is, I believe, the mindset we need to have. Start with our circle of influence, beginning with ourselves. Thank you, sir.
I know Kenneth asked that question because the brother from the Niger Delta, and I guess you know why you're asking the issue about blind followership, about the terrible things that are taking place in the Niger Delta. But let me assure you that it's a very complex issue. I'm sorry I'm not giving another lecture, but I'm also trying to contribute. The issue about blind followership is very complex. Complex in the sense that each one of us has his own idiosyncrasies in life. Those idiosyncrasies may be political, they may be religious, they may be ethnic, and I think it is only enlightenment of the soul that makes the human being see reason beyond doubt and knows that this guy, whether he's from my tribe, I go to the same mosque with him, we are the same church, we're going to ask questions. So let us ask for illumination. I know some people don't like to hear that word, but we must be illumined to understand knowledge. Can we have the next question, please?
My name is Charity Michael Wena. I feel very proud because of you, because you have done justice to the topic of the day, and I'm sure every woman here in the hall feels proud too. Thank you very much. My question is, how do you promote peace and tolerance in Nigeria in the face of mediocrity and nepotism?
Well, in the face of tolerance and mediocrity, I wonder if there's any society you don't have any mediocrity. Maybe arms exalted to the high end. It then depends upon the individual. See, you can tolerate and tolerate and tolerate without boundaries. We quoted the Holy Bible. How many times did the Master say you must forgive one another? When you want to start problems with someone, always give the reaction of that person. Somebody has offended you. You may want to retaliate. But if you retaliate and you don't kill that person, can you imagine what next the person will do when next it comes? So if you have this chain of reaction in your mind, action and reaction are equal and opposite, you will be a shock absorber. People will do things to you. That is the level of your understanding of life. Are we not all passengers on this earth called space, this spaceship that is traveling through space? For us, we're in a spaceship here on earth. Whether we like it or not, mankind has one destiny, and that destiny is what the religion tells us. But until we die, never shall we find out that. We are told that the nearest star to us is Alpha Centauri, and that if you take the distance between the sun and the Earth, 93 million miles, to be equivalent to 1 centimeter, Alpha Centauri is 1.7 kilometers away. Of recent, we have found so many other planets that are habitable. Me, even as a child, I began to think, what's man's role here on Earth? Is it possible that when we leave this place is a place for training, that we can leave this place and go to somewhere else? The moment you are imbibed with nature, and you know life, as you should be understood, that this soul in us, when we die, it is either to be judged, you go to heaven, or you go to earth, but the soul itself does not die. It lives. I've read about an experiment where somebody was just about to die. He was weighed. And when he died, they weighed him again, and there was a little fraction of change in the weight. If you read this book, what's the name of this? It has to do with Dan Brown's novel. I think The Key or something like that. These things are there. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that we must not have a limit to how much elasticity we will exercise when people are offend us, so that society can keep going. That is my own personal view, and that is what I practice. Question number 4.
Number 5.
Number 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Ajay. From the comments made by other members of the audience here, I've had a lot of what I should have asked. But I wish to commend you because seeing some of your presentations in your talk show NTA, your presentations in our live TV, and your teachings about marriage. I see that the presentation today is excellent, and our major problem is for us to apply the method of charity begins at home. If we teach and we have peace in Nigeria, and from homes we don't have peace, we cannot solve our problems. And charity begins at home, and the way things are in Nigeria, every leader has a wife or a husband. From home, wives can advise, because a wife should know about 80% of what the husband does. And the husband should know about 60 or 70% of what the wife does. And it's our duty, when we want to have peace and tolerance, for us to teach ourselves before going out. If you hold ourselves, if you know your spouse is doing what is wrong, and you'll be able to educate your spouse, what you are doing is not proper, don't continue with this. The conflicts will reduce. The peace and tolerance will start from there. But if we know that our spouses are corrupt, and we allow them because we need the fund, money is very important for all of us, there's no way we can solve this problem. But in addition, I commend you for the work well done. Thank you, man.
I think this one does not require any your contribution. Is that the last question, or there was still somebody else? Okay.
President, both past president and present president and incoming president, my colleagues and our guests. My name is Obayoso Mohammed. Everybody that has spoken after our guest speaker said something, but I will still add mine. Madam, you did very, very well. You know that this elder statesman in my town, you always say, what can a woman do? I wish she's here so that she will see what a woman can do. To be talked about. You mentioned tolerance, managing one another. You know, I'm Igbo. Igbos will always believe, is it because I'm tolerating you? Is it because I'm accommodating you? You know, they feel they are better intellectually. That brings conflict and intolerance. And then the Northerners, I might be wrong, most times they believe that they are the head, they will always lead, and then this and that, and so because of that, there's always conflict. And then to the West, of course, they believe that they are the learned tribe of Nigeria. So all these differences are what at times bring intolerance and bring conflict between one another. When I was in the university, I bought Quran for myself. Thank you so much. You preached like a Christian because you quoted more Bible, I think, than the Quran. And you only preached like an imam because you only quoted Quran so much. I bought Quran, I read it, and then I went to a new campus, University of Nigeria. Almost 99% Christians, as at then. Everybody that comes to my room and see a Quran, say, what have you done with Quran? As at 1981. That is, it's not even today that the cap is widening. You ask, what are you doing with Quran? Why are you reading that book? You can ask the random. Thank you, madam, for coming. My question is, if reading Quran and Bible, do you think it can make us more peaceful? Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful question. Like I said, we have scriptures on the tips of our tongues, and we wear our faith like a uniform. We put it on and take it off when it's convenient. The problem is the input does not produce the right output. That's why I quote again, if all Muslims would be more like Muhammad, may God be pleased with him. And if all Christians would be more like Jesus, may God be pleased with him, we wouldn't be having these problems. Where there is a problem is for Muslims, we have not become the walking Quran, because the message in our book is of peaceful coexistence, of bridging gaps, of respecting other faiths. In our religion, if a non-Muslim, not even a Christian, even if it is a non-believer, puts his hands up to God and just says, help me because of the injustice of a Muslim, that person could go to hell. It is that bad. So for us, we know we have a merciful God, and we know that we have one God. The God that created Christians, Jews, is the same God that created us. We are all the children of God. And if we would only translate the beautiful scriptures of our faith that have more in common, like I said, than what many would want us to believe, turn them into action, we would not be having this problem. So reading the book doesn't make us a good person. Because I'm a Nupe doesn't make me a good person. Because I'm a woman doesn't make me. But do I exemplify and stand out and represent as an ambassador my faith, my gender, my tribe, my region that I come from? I think that is really where we will see a change, is turning the books into reality, bringing it to life. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Put your hands together for that explanation. For Zoma, I would also like to add a comment. You see, I came into this country about 73 years ago. And growing up, I have lived in many parts of this country. There was peace those days. We knew we came from different ethnic groups. Like I grew up in Port Harcourt, mostly, and Aba. The broken language was what we all spoke. Where we came from was very, very insignificant. The resources those days, not that people were not looting and doing things, it was not at this level. Even if you are doing something wrong, you are hiding. But we have come to a stage in our country where, those days, if policemen were to take bribes, how much was it? After any, 10 cup, one shilling. They will hide. But openly now, police are taking money and giving change to passengers. It's with impunity. Everybody is behaving in a manner of impunity. That is the problem. What we require in Nigeria, not from the tribes that will come, it is training, enlightenment, and peace of heart. And to take the other man, whether it's from your tribe or not, as a human being. Because look, we're all breathing the same breath. This air we are breathing makes us more united than anything else from where we come. Did the Bible not say in the beginning, God created man out of the dust of the earth and breathed the breath of him into him, and then man became a living soul. And at death, what happens? The breath also leaves you. The soul within us of God is more important to unite us than the tribes from which we have come. Let us practice. Jesus has told us in the Holy Book, then Muhammad has told us, may peace be unto him, in the Quran. We all go to churches and go to mosques, but we don't practice. Put it into practice, and we can change Nigeria. The next question. I think that's the last one. That's the last one, yeah? Oh, last. Okay, after you, the last one.
Madam, thank you for the lecture. It was so peaceful.
Let's madam.
Yes, sir.
I know.
But on our behalf, I'd like to show you that we have been so peaceful. And it has proven that we have accommodated you peacefully too. Because, at the same time, beg for your forgiveness that we have so followed you blindly. Because you made us the loved ones, and you were calling it right, and we never said anything about it. We should have actually told you so before your lecture. We are surveyors. We used to be called land surveyors.
I was doing that at the end. You are teaching the country. This man. It was when I was to hand over the flag to her, I was to say, you this man.
So forgive us that we didn't tell you earlier. And even after your lecture, we kept talking and talking. We didn't remember. Thank you.
Yes, man. Those are one of the members of council that have always asked questions. Okay, the last person there, please. Last.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I also join hands with others to thank our guest speaker. And I have this to say. Under the peace process, my name is Shidrak Adelayo Adelakom. Sorry. Under the peace process, we want to seriously appreciate our president because in the past 2 years plus now, the Nigerian State of Surveillance have witnessed a very serious peace in this institution, where we don't even think we will be able to reach. We've gone far there. So we want to appreciate the peace-loving president that we have and those other presidents in the house. Under the tolerance map, in Nigeria, sometimes ago, if you are in your cassava farm, you want to urinate, you want to look at your side, left, right, the front, and your back, so that nobody says, why are you urinating in your cassava farm? But today, even in our public places, things have changed. When you are driving, you will hear people shouting at you, leave the road, I want to go. They no longer tolerate the other person in their front. Or even those coming behind will be handling. Now, in public places, we now see that people defecate anyhow, everywhere. Must we continue to tolerate that, man?
I laughed because just yesterday my colleague and I were driving. We came into Minna together, from Minna together, and as we reached close to a traffic stop, there was this beautiful flower bush in the middle, on the median, and this guy just started peeing on the flower, and she was exclaiming like, "What is wrong with our people? Why can't you see the flower? Do you think you can water the flower with urine?" And literally that is the reality. I think we've become more uncivilized. We've lost a lot of our dignity. You find it's a dying value which needs to be reinstilled in the fiber of society from every level, unfortunately. But we have to walk the talk. We can't be preaching it if we do it. I see big Jeeps and Escalades and Mercedes parked on the side of the road, and people are peeing literally as people are driving past with no sense of decorum. So I think it's a reflection of where we have reached and how low we have gotten. But I believe, just like other societies that have risen from the ashes and have become almost first world countries today, that we have the ability, if we choose to take responsibility and model the right thing and stop and say this isn't right. It is more of the Edmund Burke quote, don't tolerate it. You will see this sign by walls where don't pee or don't urinate here. That's where they will urinate. But nobody calls people to order. Nobody holds them accountable. And I think if we do hold people accountable and speak up and model the right behavior. We run a school, a high school in Minna. We have one in Abuja as well. But I notice over years, the students that have been with us for about 3 to 4 years start behaving like we do. They start to model, actually. They see what we are modeling and they start to copy how we talk. You cannot walk past any adult without greeting because we greet them first. And over time we see that the culture changes. They come without that. I know on day of resumption for new students, they just come, they drop their box, you check and you say go in. No manners to even greet, and you get worried that how did they raise you at home? But after 6 years in our school, our students stand out because we walk the talk. We don't just preach, but we model what we want them to see, which is what every parent is meant to do. Our children don't learn from what we tell them. They copy what we do. And I think if we as a nation, starting individually, do the right thing and make sure the person next to you does the right thing, we'll probably see a wave that will hopefully bring us back to the glory of the good old days. May God help us all.
That's necessary. So our duty is done now. Can get back to me. Okay, now. I have the great honor and pleasure to hand over this flag to you, our guest lecturer for the 38th Olumide Memorial Lecture, Adria Maria Flem. It has been a very wonderful and stimulating lecture. We appreciate your presence, and we wish that you would display this in your office to show the beginning of a continuous relationship with the Nigerian institution of surveillance. Thank you for coming and we wish you well. And in addition to that, we have the towel, the pen holder, and what have you. Thank you very much. Okay, I can't take hands because I'm forbidden.
Thank you, sir, Mr. President, and our guest speaker. We appreciate you. Mr. President, sir, sorry, please. Our guest speaker wants to leave, and we want to take a photograph before the guest speaker leaves. So please, I invite the past president and members of Olumide Memorial and Olumide family members, sorry, please, to come forward for this meeting. Past president, sir. Incoming president, sir. Please, you are welcome, sir. Madam, please. Always, please, we want you to come forward. Madam, please. Yes, you're welcome. Quickly, please double up. Thank you. Lovely. Careful. Yes. Usher, please.
You see why it's good to be a woman? In your next life.
Our treasurer. Thank you.
Did they answer? This is John question.
So permit me to bring to the podium a goodwill message from the family of our first and life president of this great institution. I have the honor for the president and the institution to call on our Dr. Olumide for the goodwill message from Olumide family. You are welcome.
of the Nigerian Institute of Surveyors. So a very well organized lecture. It has been very successful. Definitely this is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. As I said, unfortunately the guest speaker has left, but I'd like to commend her speech. It was very erudite and well delivered. Now nothing remains, but on behalf of the entire Olumide family, to thank you for continuing to honor our late patron, Pastor C.T. Olumide. It is because of you. We appreciate you, and we are eternally grateful. We thank you very much for doing this. Nothing now remains. I would just like to make a special prayer that God will guide everybody to their various destinations. And I also wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. Thank you and God bless. Sorry, yes. Last year, we promised to present another photograph of our patriarch. So far, we have extended our researches, but we have not been very successful. But I can say that we still have a photograph which can be worked upon. And I can assure you by the end of next year, before the end of next year, we would have succeeded in our search. Thank you very much. This is in compliance with your request. We have dug deep, but we have not been very successful in our researches. You will continue to search, and we will just implore you to accept this, maybe when we get a better one. Thank you very much. I think you can work on this.
Thank you, sir. So please quickly, we want to have goodwill messages to this great occasion of the 38th Annual Olumide Memorial Lecture. I have the honor of the institution to call on the Surveyor General of the Federation, our own Surveyor Tayo Adeniran, fellow elect for the institution. You are welcome.
To save our time, I want to crave your indulgence for me to adopt a well-established protocol. It is my joy and pleasure to deliver this short goodwill message at this wonderful annual gathering of notable personality at this 38th Annual Olumide Memorial Lecture. Today's lecture topic could not have come at a better time, which is quite very apt, at a time when the world is facing some challenges on multiple fronts: tribal, political, religion, terrorism, and so on. Considering the topic of today's lecture, promoting the culture of peace and tolerance, it is indeed that this is what we need to really move forward, because it is only in an environment of peace that we can make progress. And at the beginning of this meeting, on this lecture series, I really enjoy what the president said. He said in the beginning he was talking peace. During his time he was still talking peace. And today, at this lecture, we've only listened to nothing but also the talk of peace. It is very imperative for us to realize that we all have to seek peace, even when we still have to prepare for war. But our ultimate desire is to get peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish all of us the very best in our endeavor. And I say long life Olumide family, long life the institution, and long life the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
So let me quickly bring to the podium the Registrar of our Soldiers Council of Nigeria, Master KK, fellow elect of our great institution. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, the Secretary. I would like to seek your indulgence to stand on the existing protocol, which has already been established. Today is a very important day in the history of this institution, that we are celebrating one of our own, one of the greatest, and we have representation of family members. Importantly, I think, we're here not only to listen to the lectures, but also to imbibe the quality, the leadership, the patriotism, and the aspirations of late Olumide. We have been having this lecture year in, year out. We have to go back to our environments, to our offices, and ask ourselves, how have we copied the good things that this man is remembered for? And when we leave our offices, when we leave the environment, after 40 years, 50 years, who will remember us? After 2 years, what will we remember with? These, I think, are very crucial questions that each of us, when we live here, we must go back to our environment, our office, and ask ourselves. They say, change begins with me. This topic is very important and very apt, particularly for this administration, NIS, and the incoming administration. We have fought wars for close to 10 years, or let's say 5 to 6 years. But at the end of the day, we realize that the war in the court, the war with the guns, the wars with arrows, is not the correct war. The war we should fight is to fight our selfishness, is to fight our individualism, and is to fight within our mind on how do we control our best desires. That is the real war. And that is the one that will give you peace. That is the one that will give us peace. I think there were some few blind spots that we should have looked at in this lecture that was delivered. It was delivered excellently well by a person who knows how and what. But we have larger problem in the country today, because there is no clear distinction, like I always say, between those on the upper deck and those in the lower deck. The only thing is the question of opportunity. Those of us when we were young, we see those who made it and we complain. This and that, this and that, this and that. And today, most of us, we are there. We have changed nothing. In fact, we became worse than them. I always give example of this problem that happened recently, just last month, of this looting that we have had. For goodness sake, I ask myself, what is the difference between the senator, between the governor, between the president, etc., who is looting the treasury, and those, the masses, who are breaking into shops, who are killing, maiming, and burning, and looting even toilet seats? I think we need to have a change of national reorientation. And this lecture has given us the basis to do so. And we're all professions here. We have to use our profession to see how we can bring that change in ourselves and in our profession, and by that we translate it to the country. Mr. President, and the Vice President, and all members present, I thank you very much, and I wish you the best. Thank you.
Quickly, please let me call on the chairman of the academia, our people in academics, Professor Lazarus Ojigi. I don't know whether to say so, don't let me commit myself.
Thank you, Secretary. I wish to acknowledge and recognize the already established protocol. On behalf of NASGIL, National Association of Surveying and Geoinformatics Lecturers, wish to congratulate the chairman, the president and chairman of council of Nigerian Institution of Surveyors on the 38th annual lecture in honor of Olumide. And when I read his autobiography, and I discovered that he had all his training in surveying in Nigeria. So we are proudly saying that all Nigerian institutions offering surveying and geoinformatics guarantees everyone that wants to study surveying quality. And that quality, the way Olumide had it and passed it on, the same way that he trained was where we had our last AGM. And Oyo is standing since 1908 to now, bringing up greater giants that will take surveying to greater heights. So we want to appeal that if we must solve the problem of leadership, followership is more crucial. And we need to build the followership quality of human beings, putting them in the right place, giving them the right instruction, so that when we are no more here, those that we are building, those that are followers today, will become the leaders of tomorrow. I think about 2 weeks ago, I was making presentation somewhere, and I gave the topic was difficulty of leadership. But what is more difficult is followership. So it's becoming, in our own days, it's becoming more difficult to be a follower than a leader, because it is an inverted situation now. So on behalf of NASGIL, we want to congratulate all of us, and we pray that when you are leaving here and going to your home, God will grant you journey mercy to your home. And I want to specifically just mention what our emeritus professor, the summary he gave. He did a proper assessment of the guest lecturer. The elder brother is somebody we know very well. The elder brother was a member of the 2014 conference, the CONFAR. And the speech he gave is also a public speaker. The speech he gave is still in the annal of record that is being read on radio, on TV from time to time. Elder brother of Miriam. So they are gifted. And that message, I want to plead that the lecture she gave should be put in an audio, a video, because if you pick the paper, you will not get the detail, because she paraphrased so many things that she presented. A message for us, as was captioned by our president, former president, and emeritus Professor Fajem Broko. So let's put in a video, and then we have it in our secretariat. Then the youth, those that are coming behind us, will look at this, have this message, and then become better surveyors. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir. I have the honor of the Mr. President to call on our past president and the chairman of the board of fellows, Surveyor Chief Anthony Ashiofu. Welcome, sir.
You have consistently attended this lecture and shown very good concern and respect for your country. And we thank you very much for being here on the 38th annual lecture. On behalf of the body of fellows of the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors, which our champion was #1, we want to appreciate the successful organization of the 38th annual lecture series. The lecturer gave us some very big food for thought, particularly peace. There is no amount of money that can be paid to have peace. Some of us who were very fortunate and unfortunate to be in the civil war for 3 years can testify that nobody loves war. But, like she said, if you have to fight war to have peace, fight war and get peace. In the same way, why do you have to fight war to get peace if peace can be gotten like we have today in surveying? NIS, SOGO, all of them are working in tandem, and everything is working very well, and we're progressing. It should be that way. The body of fellows enjoys this peaceful existence of our professional practices, and I pray that it will continue like that. We just finished our annual meeting in Enugu last week, and I can happily inform all of you that because of the peace that we're enjoying in our profession today, attendance was marvelous, and everybody that attended was happy, smiling and going home, and everybody got home safely too. So please, the lecture was on time, because even my upbringing, when you say you are Ashiofu, they will ask you, oh, Ashiofu, they know your character already. Today, it's not like that. Somebody can come and tell you that Ashiofu, maybe from another extract of Ashiofu, and his behavior will not be for peace. But Ashiofu of my own extract is peace. We need to grow in peace so that we can progress. And that is why this lecture came at an optimal time. And I'm very happy with this food, deliciously to eat and added value with my organ and his precise, conclusion, or the way he looked at the lecture as a whole and touched at the high points, and the way the president too married the pertinent points to make conclusion in the circumstances and situations we find ourselves today in Nigeria and in our profession. So I want to thank all of you on behalf of the body of fellows I wish that all our professional surveyors can prefer peace than either going to court. I don't mean people should be shortcutted or punished unnecessarily, but that people should see peace or peace resolution as a way of trying to progress in whatever we do, both in your homes, with your wife and children, and both in your husbands too, because we have these people here, and even in your businesses and different partnerships, we find ourselves that requires peaceful coexistence so that we can begot progress. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Before I bring up the President for the closing remarks, I have the honor of the President and this great institution to bring up our home, the immediate past President of NIS, the President of Association of Professional Body of Nigeria, APBA, our home, Sovio Akinloye Olufemi Oyebola, fellow of the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I am sure we are itching to actually get to the end of the program. So on that account, permit me to adopt the existing protocol. I am tempted to say one or two things, but I will limit it to just the good message, since it's the president of the PBA that was invited to the podium. So on behalf of the Council and the Board of Association of Professional Bodies of Nigeria, gives me the pleasure to appreciate the way the lecture had been planned, conducted, and the success that we are seeing is a reflection of that same piece we are talking about. I think that at the end of the day, when we use that word, peace, because there's a reason why grammar does not allow us to say perfect peace, we will say we will need to differentiate. Since we cannot call it perfect or not perfect, we need to differentiate between peace and calm. I'll leave that for another day. I wish all members of the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors a wonderful time as you depart to your respective places of the board. We've had a wonderful time, and I pray that by the grace of God, this Olumide Memorial Lecture, which we are celebrating the 38th today, will continue, and we will continue to grow from strength to strength to celebrate it. Thank you very much.
President, distinguished members of the institution, and our families of Olumide, we really appreciate you, sir. Permit me to quickly run through the goodwill messages on the pages of our program. We have it at the inside cover page. Red Fox congratulates the president, and that is from your friend Chidozie, fellow of the institution. And also on page 14, we have the chairman of Anambra State congratulating or sending their congratulatory messages. And also the Office of the Solicitor General of the Federation on page 18. On page 19, we have the registrar on behalf of the members of the council to facilitate with the institution. On page 20, we have the SOCOM and the management and staff of Surveyors Council of Nigeria. On page 21, we have the Surveyor in Wabuchi and family. On page 22, we have the congratulations from Surveyor Matthew O. Itoye. And on page 23, we have from Surveyor Badamasi Tahir and Surveyor Cedric Adelayo Adelakon. On page 24, we have on behalf of the Association of the Private Practicing Surveyors of Nigeria, APPSN, through the chairman, Surveyor Abayo in Bobadoye FNIS. On page 25, we have the National Coordinator and the entire women in surveying. They congratulate the institution and the president on this occasion of 38th annual Memorial Lecture. And on page 26, we have the chairman, Surveyor AA and the FNIS, on behalf of FCT branch. Also on page 27, we have the chairman, Surveyor GT Padansi, on behalf of Osun State branch. On page 28, we have the Surveyor Adrere Mekobiowu on behalf of Oyo State branch. And on page 29, Surveyor the chairman of Ebonyi State branch. On page 30, we have the Lagos State branch. The chairman, A.A. Adeleke, congratulate the president of the institution. On page 31, we have the Kaduna State branch. They congratulate the institution. On page 32 also, we have on page 32, Ogun State branch, they congratulate and facilitate with the institution. On page 34, we have the River State on behalf of the chairman, Surveyor Dr. CIW Ezi. And at the last cover page, we have the Caldale Consultants Limited. They facilitate with the president on the occasion of 38th Annual Olumide Memorial Lecture. Please permit me to use this opportunity to welcome the immediate past Vice President International of this great institution, Surveyor Abubakar Alilu Jikamshi, fellow of the institution. You are welcome, sir. Finally, let me bring to the podium our president. I have the honor of the president to call on the incoming president and the deputy president, Surveyor Dr. David Kayode Oluwamatimi FNIS, to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the executive council. You are welcome, sir. Please a round of applause for our incoming president.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. This permits me to stand on the already established protocol. I'm getting used to this assignment. I know very soon I will leave this assignment. We give honor to the Almighty for making today possible, COVID or no COVID. I know some were COVID pandemic will be disappointed that this Olumide lecture has been held in a very peaceful atmosphere, and we thank God for everything. The chairman of this occasion, although he's not present here right now, but we thank him for accepting to be the chairman. Otherwise, his name will not appear on this. The guest speaker, although she has left, but she has left a legacy behind. Within a short time, within the lecture history, when the lecturers have mentioned another 20 years, I'm sure her name will be remembered for the lecture she has given today. Just like the other speaker said, very apt and timely, because we are in the atmosphere of peace. We shall continue to mention peace, peace, peace until this government, being led by my president, leaves the scene the last day. And the last day, I'm sure we all know, is going to be in May. We shall be talking peace from now till May. Sorry? After? We shall be talking. Okay. I agree with you, sir. I want to thank the Olumide family members who are present there. Just like the chairman of the bureau said, we appreciate your coming every year. We know it's not easy, change of location. Before it was Lagos, now Abuja. We don't know where we are going next. Even when we go to Sokoto, I know you will come, sir. We thank you for coming and we appreciate. Our past presidents, they are always around. The Olumide Memorial Lecture Series. We thank you, sir, for coming again this year. And I know you will come again next year, by the grace of God. We want to thank the president of APBN, Association of Banana Bodies of Nigeria. And that's our own Sovio Akin Oyebola. We want to thank you for coming, despite the short notice. Also, the chairman of UF, that is the Board of Fellows, we want to thank you for coming, and we shall expect you again next year. We want to thank the members of council of NIS. I know we are very present here. If you permit me, and the members of council, please stand please. Members of council of NIS. Yeah. It's more than half of the population here. We thank you for coming. And when we say, please clap for them. Please clap for them. When we say members of council in NIS, we are talking about the members throughout the 36 states, including Abuja. 36 states, they are here, from Sokoto, from Zamfara, from Kebbi. They are all here for this occasion. It's an occasion we don't play with in NIS. Also, I want to thank our own Secretary General of the Federation. It's not easy to catch him. I don't know how come he came today. It's because of the importance he has given to it. It's not easy to. I know 2 weeks ago he was in Ocean for 2 weeks, and now he's there. We want to thank you for coming. Also, the Registrar of Soccer, We are talking about the, I don't know, my president always tries to avoid the issue of tripod. I don't know what we call it. We don't call it tripod, what do we call it? What do we call it? So that's an assignment for surveyor. So the Minister of Socom, we thank you for coming. That's the tripod. We have completed the terms for the tripod. So, also, upwards, the sound is not loud enough. Upwards, because I saw all of you when you came to take photography. The sound is not up to, okay, we want to welcome you again. I know you were around yesterday, and I know you will be around today. You came for a purpose yesterday. And I know you will be around today, and you didn't disappoint us. Thanks for gracing this occasion. The honorable members, all members of the night, I want to thank all of you for coming. Despite COVID, whether it is virtual or it is physical, but I can't see the difference. That's the truth. So we thank all members for coming. Our invited guests, we appreciate your coming for this program. I know they used to call it gentlemen of the press. I don't know why the gentle is always there. The person I'll call them members of the press. Gentle, I don't believe in it. So we thank you for coming to grace this occasion. From the list, I'm sure you must have observed that I missed two names. Good, two names. It's deliberate. It's not deliberate. And that's the committee. The committee that organized this program. I want to thank them for how they have done it, and it is marvelous in our eyes. We thank you so much for organizing this the way you are doing. The last person, but not the least, is the president of NIS. I want to thank you, sir, for making sure that we hold this program despite the postponement, the COVID, everything. We still insist that this program, we must hold it. So we want to thank you, our president, for holding this program. We appreciate everybody, and we thank everybody. I'm not going. I forgot to thank myself. So I thank myself for thanking everybody. Thank you.
All protocols good observed. I wish to use this opportunity to thank God immensely for today. And my special thanks goes to the President, Nigerian Mission of Surveyors, and members here present. The next item is item 17, specifying lunch. And the order will be as follows. The dignitaries, namely the President of Nigerian Mission of Surveyors, Chairman, Board of Fellows, past President, President APBN, Surveyor General of the Federation, the Registrar, members of Olumide family, Chairman APPSN, Chairman NASGO, and Coordinator WIS. They should be the first set that we move in and will be directed to the place they should sit down and relax and carry out the item 7 in a cool and cordial manner. Then the next group, after this first group, will be the ESCO, fellows of the Nigerian Institute of Surveyors, council members will be taken by somebody to where they will stay, and Group C will be other distinguished members. They will follow suit after the first and second group. Thank you very much.
I will collect your brother event to go and eat it. You, your national coordinator, go and eat it.
In closing, the president has directed that we should go on with the national anthem. Please, I request we stand as we take the national anthem and then the stanza 2 of national anthem as closing prayer for this great 38th occasion.
Sorry, we had tags during registration, and this tag will be made use of for the lunch, and people should present their card on collecting whatever they want to eat. Thank you very much.
DJ. Closing prayer, O God of creation.
O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, and use the truth to know, in God and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great love divides our ten, to build a nation where peace and justice reign.
Thank you. God bless you all. So please, let's move to the dining restaurant for our item served. The Assistant Secretary General is leading, sir.